Hello everyone and welcome to the very last episode of extracurricular activities for the year. I'm Kass.
And I'm River.
And we've got a couple of spooky segments coming up on today's show.
But first we've got David with News of the Week.
Thanks guys. Hundreds of bees have mysteriously died in North and South Australia. The insects were found dead and dying near beehives and in backyards in the town of Peterborough, with some locals claiming poison was to blame. This follows the news about 1 million bees have been deliberately killed with an insecticide in the Northern Territory at a cost of about $20,000. The bees, which were part of a commercial venture, were poisoned with fipronil, a chemical that's usually used to control termites. The Northern Territory Police have been asked to investigate the matter. The European Parliament has backed a comprehensive ban on single-use plastics in an attempt to control pollution within the EU. From 2021, products with viable alternatives such as plastic straws and picnicware will no longer be used, with all EU states required to recycle 90% of plastic bottles by 2025. And company directors have nominated climate change the top issue they want the government to address. The Australian Institute of Company Directors Biannual Director Sentiment Index, which surveys over 1,200 directors within both the public and private sectors, has highlighted a recognition of the threats of climate change within the business community and a level of frustration at the lack of government direction. 54% of those surveyed said the policy uncertainty in Canberra was having a negative impact on business, with 79% reporting a similar decline in consumer confidence. And on that note, back to you guys.
Speaking of plastic, you were at the beach for a clean-up day, weren't you?
Yep, I was at Wollongong Beach last Saturday covering the UoW Clean Beach Festival. And here it is.
Cigarettes, straws and tyres were some of the things dug up in North Wollongong Beach for this year's Surfrider Illawarra Clean Beach Festival. Over 20 kilos of waste was collected on land, including 800 cigarettes and 460 soft plastics. Meanwhile, under the waves in low visibility, divers pulled up fishing equipment, floor mats, a tyre and an electrician's licence expired in 2007.
There's a lot of microplastics and really small pieces. These things just aren't compatible with nature, and they're everywhere in our environment.
The event also paid tribute to late Clean Up Australia founder Ian Keenan, with surfers paddling out for a minute's silence.
He was such a charismatic and magnetic personality. In his first harbour clean, he attracted over 40,000 people.
In continuing his legacy, calls were made for a statewide ban on plastic bags.
The cleanups that are happening every weekend around Australia are great for making people aware of the problem, but we need to move past the idea of cleanups and recycling. We need to have a bigger conversation about consumption, because that's really what's driving the ecological problems we're seeing around the world.
River McCrossan, UoW TV Multimedia.
And keeping on the topic of sustainability, we talked to Nathan from the UoW Makerspace about what he's doing with the plastics we throw away.
So today we're joined with Nathan Riggir, the coordinator of the UoW Makerspace. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, always a pleasure.
No worries. So can you explain to everyone what UoW Makerspace is?
So Makerspace is the first space on campus that allows any student from any discipline the opportunity to get their hands on 3D printers, laser cutters, Arduinos, media, video editing software, media stuff. And it's just sort of a community where students can come in and share their knowledge, be part of a community that learns from each other and just gets a chance to use new technology, pretty much.
And you also have a project going right now on recycling, or using new plastics to create new products.
Yes, yeah, so that's the UoW Makerspace recycling project. We kind of launched that or unveiled it during the Global Climate Change Week. We hope to have some of the equipment up and running so you could sort of demo to see what it was like, but we didn't quite get there. But it's a really exciting initiative that is sort of coming out of the Makerspace, including a lot of students on campus.
So what kind of products are you making then from this?
So the whole process of the recycling project is to take our waste 3D filament from the Makerspace. That would normally go into the rubbish bin, would end out up in the tip. And then from that we can shred it down, feed it through these machines that we're looking at making, and then be able to reuse that into trying to spool our own 3D printing filament, so we can reuse that through our machines. And then from there we can look at see how we can injection mold them into usable products that we would otherwise not get a chance to do.
What kind of products would you make?
So 3D print filament would be the first one that we're looking at. When you get into injection moulding, it's pretty much whatever you can mould or you can create a mould for. So you could look at doing handles, you could do bowls, you could do coasters, you could do some sort of marble artwork, you could do spinning tops, you could do clipboard backings, anything that's kind of plastic at this point in time and can be moulded, we can try and do.
Yep, so where do you get your materials from to make the products?
So the 3D printers are extremely popular within the makerspace, so we have gone over 35 to 40 kilometres of 3D print filament. From a lot of that, there's a lot of waste, so that's our main source of where we're going to get some of the plastic from. Beyond looking at 3D filament or plastic filament, we will look at plastic bottles, and then on campus is a perfect place to start collecting some of that, which is kind of what we're trying to do as well as part of this project.
Is this the first we've kind of seen in the llowarra of something like this?
I believe it is, yeah. So this first was established in Sweden back in 2013. So it is called a Precious Plastics Initiative, which was started by someone else, but from our team and our project team, we're just looking at sort of piggybacking on that and taking it further. I think Monash University is doing something, a few makerspaces or other community engagement centres up in Brisbane are doing the same, but we're the first in sort of that gap between Brisbane and Melbourne. They'll be looking at doing something like this, and then hopefully putting our space on that map to say that we're involved with something like this.
Yep. So are you hoping to change the way that people see plastic or think about plastic?
We really hope so. We found out a couple of weeks ago that there's a place in WA called Greenbatch that did some research into plastic bottles. It's it's a misconception that all our recycled plastic actually gets reused and recycled into useful products or going back into making bottles, but apparently 97 to 98% actually gets burnt.
Wow.
And only 1 to 2% actually recycled.
Sorry, 98%?
Oh yeah, of the plastic from Australia doesn't get recycled, it gets burnt, which adds to the environment, climate change, CO2 gases. So it's a real big issue that we need to sort of address. I think in Australia we throw out 40 plastic bottles a second as the figure. So I think with an initiative like this, if we can get students on board to rethink how they handle plastic, and if we can actually recycle that into useful products. The idea with the plastic bottles is we can shred those up and then actually run them through the 3D printers as well. So if we can, say take 10% of plastic on campus, run them through our printers and actually can 3D print useful objects, I think that's a major step in the right direction.
Yep. So can anyone be a part of this?
Yeah, most definitely. So we initially set up the project team. It was very much a collaboration with all student clubs. So we targeted certain clubs that would have the knowledge and expertise in these areas. So we went out to UoW Motorsport, the UoW Makerspace Club, Fossil Free UoW, Enviro Collective UoW, UoW Mechatronics, Women in STEM. So we try to get those students that have that knowledge. They were the core start of the group, but obviously once we've unveiled it, it's sort of releasing that knowledge of that project out into the UoW community and seeing if anyone else wants to sort of jump on the cause.
Yep.
and help us work through this project.
Is there anything else you'd like to say that we haven't touched on?
No, I think I think we've covered most things. It's still early days in the project. I try not to overcommit because the sky is the limit. I would like to say that if we prove this concept and we can actually get it working and actually get real world objects out and we can use them, I'm hoping that we can have an end-to-end recycling, what do you call it? Sorry, I just got a blank on that. I'm thinking a shipping container on campus that will be an end-to-end recycling system.
Yep.
That students can actually be actively involved with and changing the concept around plastic and helping the world.
Well, it's a really great initiative and it's doing a lot to help the environment as well. So thank you for joining us today and letting us know all about it.
You're welcome. Anytime. Thank you.
And if that chat gave you any hope, here's Riley to crush it all.
Riley's dead. Humanity has been given 12 years until 2030 to reduce their carbon emission by at least 50% and until 2050 for a 100% reduction. Otherwise, the damage by climate change will become irreversible. The IPCC released a report stating that if the Earth were to raise another 1 degree Celsius, damage will be irreversible within our lifetime. Carbon emissions have already heated the Earth by 1 degree Celsius since pre-industrial times, and it has been rapidly growing. Without intervention, the temperature globally is expected to rise over 2 degrees Celsius, having wide-ranging impacts from rising sea levels, food shortages, destroyed ecosystems, heavy rain, floods, heat waves. So what can you do? Well, nothing. 63% of all global emissions are produced by just 50 companies. Keep cups, steel straws and canvas bags aren't saving you. It's over. No amount of grassroots efforts are going to make it, as long as money rules to these companies, which it does and will. A radical change is needed, and we are not able to do that as a species. So quit your degree, take your money out of the bank and stockpile food, because in 15 years it'll be every man and woman for themselves. This is a hellscape, and it's getting worse, because at least right now, if you're watching this video, you probably have food. But that will change, because as the weather gets worse and more violent, the ability to grow crops will decrease and livestock are less likely to survive, either from the intense heat waves or the heavy rainfall and flash flooding. And as the ocean warms up, fish will seek new locations, putting strain back on fisheries. With snow melting earlier, bees may not pollinate flowers, which is required for crops. Food is going to be scarce. When we imagine the apocalypse, we imagine meteors, volcanoes and hellfire. But even if we survive the new climate, starvation and poverty is awfully hard to protect yourself against. There is no career, no future for people like myself, because there will be no resources for anything other than the job of surviving. So Mad Max or Waterworld is a lot closer than you think, and there's not much you or I can do about it. The power of change is not in our hands anymore. It rests in the power of shareholders of these companies and world leaders. And they've had the time and the warning, and they did nothing. So if you aren't going to stand up and fight for Earth, take a load off, don't worry about the future, because you likely don't have one. Indulge in the final few moments you have on Earth, because this is likely to be the last generation that will be able to enjoy Earth. Earth is dead. Thanks.
So, the Earth is dead.
But fortunately, we have alcohol, and at Oktoberfest there was lots of it.
The University of Wollongong is celebrating one of the world's best-known beer-scented parties. Oktoberfest kicked off with plenty of alcohol and a good deal of knee-slapping.
Yeah, so we have our German bands coming in. So they are your classic accordion-playing German bands. We'll have a bratwurst and pretzel station going on, so you can get your German food, and lots of beer being consumed.
It looked like fun, so I dusted off the lederhosen and braved the beer garden to bring you Oktoberfest straight from the keg. Why are you here at Oktoberfest?
I'm good! Because life is too short.
We're here for beer and pretzels and fun.
Yeah, we're the Alpine Echoes, we're from Sydney, and
I'm Fritz.
Fritz. I'm Ludwig. Actually, we're Stephan and Paul. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
As you can see, things are really kicking off behind me here at UoW at the Oktoberfest celebrations. Students have come down to celebrate what is probably one of the most exciting parts of the German festival calendar. And with 5.5 hours still left to go, I'm sure things are going to get a lot more exciting here on in.
Hopefully this year we won't have a hole through the table. We'll see how we go though.
And with beer stein in hand, there's only one thing left to do. David Barnett-Clement, UoW TV.
And from drinking to eating, here's Tori covering Dessert Day.
The day was still a sweet experience for Wollongong, despite Max Brenner closing down last Sunday. But for some people, like Supriya Iyer, the National Day of Dessert was about more than just indulging in something yummy to eat.
I just feel that sweets are something that bring people together.
Supriya moved from India to Australia to study pastry and found a home in Wollongong after completing her industry placement here.
If I can be the reason for someone to give someone a moment of happiness because of a sweet that I prepared, then I'm all for it.
Supriya says the boom for desserts is not yet over, with new technology encouraging chefs to be more creative with their cooking. Though she says it's important to have a special day to celebrate desserts, after losing her mother to diabetes, Supriya understands the health implications of overindulging.
Most of us like desserts. Maybe I do a little bit more than others. But being overweight is the second highest burden of disease in Australia. And currently, 2 out of 3 Australian adults are overweight or obese.
Statistics like these have dietitian Alicia Thackray concerned for the well-being of her clients.
An increase in weight puts you at greater risk of cardiovascular disease, also puts you at greater risk of diabetes, and also some cancers.
But for some people, it will be difficult to let go of their favourite desserts.
My favourite dessert would be cheesecake.
Pavlova. I love pavlova.
Victoria Ellis, UoW TV Multimedia.
And for something else to hit your sweet tooth, here's a sickly sweet snack on 60-second snacks.
Welcome back to 60-second snacks. This week for Halloween, we're making chocolate spiders. You will need peanut butter, Chang's fried noodles, and milk chocolate. First, you need to have 200 grams of chocolate, so we're using milk chocolate. Breaking it up, and then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. I'm using smooth, but you can also use chunky if you're about that chunky life. Just plop that in there. We're gonna microwave that until it's all melted. We'll put it in for like 60-second intervals. Oh. It seems to be melting together well, so we're gonna get a spatula. Smoosh it all together. I think I might put it in for another 30 seconds because the chocolate's still kind of lumpy, but otherwise it's quite glossy and it's combining together well. Delicious. So as you can see, it's all melted together really nicely. Now we'll add our Chang's fried noodles, dump them in, and then we'll fold them into the chocolate mixture. Now that you've combined all of your chocolate and your noodles and your peanut butter, you're just going to want to scoop it onto a prepared baking tray with baking paper so they don't stick. So you get 1 big old tablespoon, and then you just scoop it on with a teaspoon, and then that forms your chocolate spider. Oh no. There we have it. Our very large and in charge spiders. So put them in the fridge until they're set. You'll know it'll be rock solid. These look nice and delicious and kind of like poo puddles, but let's see what Vinny thinks.
Nice. Ooh.
Thanks for watching 60 Seconds Next. I'll see you next semester.
Now I must say, those spiders definitely look a lot more appetising than the real things.
And now for a question. What would you do in the holidays if you had all the money in the world?
Hey guys, that's the show. Hey guys, it's... I'm sorry, I need a moment. Hey, it's Maddie, and no. This is so stressful. Okay. This week on Pop the Question. Hey, it's Maddie, and welcome to the last Pop the Question for this year. Well, we did it. We've almost nipped 2018 in the butt, and although there are still exams to come, we are so close to that well-deserved holiday. So we thought we'd come out on campus and ask, if money wasn't a factor, how would you guys be spending the break?
Oh, I'd definitely go to Antarctica, I reckon. Go for a bit of a visit, check out what's going on.
I'd definitely go overseas. I wouldn't stay in the country. I'd just go all over Europe and everywhere.
I'd probably start my way off through Paris and up through England.
I'd probably do a lot of travelling, like go to Europe. Yep.
I would have traveled because I'm an international student, so I have been to many places in Australia. I wanted to go to Gold Coast. Yeah. So I would have been traveled.
I would go overseas for the entire time. Is that it?
Well, that's it, guys. Looks like in a perfect world we'd be taking a UoW convoy overseas, but let's face it, we're uni students. Just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's answered questions this session. It's been so much fun. Hopefully we'll catch you next year. Back to you guys in the studio. We'll cut that.
River, what would you do in the holidays if you had all the money in the world?
Probably something more original than travelling to Europe.
But next up, we've got the UoM looking a little different this time because of Halloween. Let's check it out.
Welcome back to the UoM Halloween edition. Sadly, it's our final week in front of the camera this year, but don't you worry, your pretty little heads will be active on social media all throughout summer. Make sure that you're following us at the UoM on Facebook and Instagram. And it's a spooky week this week with Halloween next Wednesday. Your first glimpse of darkness will be tonight at Radbar as a lineup of hardcore music takes the stage. Local Boys After Touch are headlining, with Sydney locals Homesick, Singapore's Exhibitors and Wollongong's Nosedive lending a helping hand. Friday night is a big one. Strawberry Boogie's back for the month, showcasing local art and some amazing music. Making the trek across the Nullarbor, Perth's Peter Bibby will be headlining the night, with his poetic Aussie tunes charming the audience. His new single Work for Arseholes will be available Friday 28th, but get in early and catch a glimpse of the new tune tomorrow. He'll be supported by The Boys, Buddy Dingo, Bland and Loftus Lake, plus some live art. Saturday night will be extra spooky with 2 huge Halloween events kicking off around the town. Down at Taraji Beach Hotel, Parkside DJs will be creeping on some killer tunes while partygoers dress to impress. Tickets are limited, so get yours before they all go. And if psychedelic punk is more your jam for a spooky Saturday night, then get down to Spookfest at Radbar for a big one. Local Boys Paola will be reuniting for the first time in a long time to lay down some psych punk rock vibes. Taking inspiration from Aussie bands Pond and King Gizzard and Liz Wiz, the 4-piece will no doubt be putting you in the right mood. Supported by Walkin', Shrimp Witch, Wave Vom, Bullshirt and the Darrens, there'll be an endless supply of clangy tunes and funky band names. And as per usual, Yours and Ours and North Gong Hotel have your Sunday Arvo beats covered. This week it's Fritz, Sleepyheads and Milky Thread's turn to spark a crowd. Self-described as spacey noise pop, Fritz is the music of Newcastle local Tilly Murphy. The young artist has toured around the country with Gong fave Ruby Fields and is now in your backyard, so don't miss her. And that's all from us this week and from this year. Have a safe summer and keep in touch.
So that's all we've got for the show today, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched us throughout the year.
And to end on a high note, we've got UoW Unplugged with Diet Life the Buns.
See you guys.
See ya.
In my loneliness between the sheets in my home street, and I'm wondering if you could come and help me. It's not like I need saving, I'm not that boy. I mean, who is? I just want you to stay with me, play with me, spend days with me. What I really want is you. Out to dinner 1, 2, 3, 4 times this week, and I'm wondering what I could be doing right. I mean, you smell pretty handsome and your eyes taste nice, and the pale blue just hijacks in my mind and takes me to a 1-bedroom apartment where the view is all